Showtime.
It's about that time.
Let's go.
You're right where you need to be. This is GCOM Radio.
Hardest radio station on the planet. Yeah.
Powered by Lyfeblood.com.
We certified.
And hosted by Nova Phoenix.
Give them that flavor.
Oh, yeah. Oh, man, yo, I'm here once again. We're doing this. Oh, man, we're doing it again. I know, folks, I know it's been a little bit. It's surprisingly for me, too. Not 1 week, but 2 weeks that I've been out. Folks, I am so sorry, but I'm back again with another show here talking to you guys on a one-on-one wherever you at. Thank you for tuning in. I know you see the ad that I had. I put it on IG and I put it on Twitter, and you're here clicking right on to the show. Thank you for coming again for another episode of GCOM Radio. Yes, I am your host, Nova Phoenix, and I just want to, I feel so comfortable now. I truly enjoy doing this. I took a little break, folks. I took a little break because I just had to take care of some other things. I had to, personal. And I'm like, and also, I'm not going to even lie. I'm going to be honest here. I was going through a little bit of burnout. Because everything I felt like was overlapping. I wasn't getting into anything. I wasn't motivated. I wasn't inspired. And it was just hard to really focus and dig down deep and get in front of my computer, do things. And there were times, I don't know if anybody ever have gone through burnout, but literally I'm like, okay, let's go. Let's do this. I got the mouse in front of me, the keyboard situated, ready to go. And I just could not type. I could not find the energy to really just go forward and do what I had to do. And I was thinking to myself, I was like, no, well, what is going on? How come you really can't get on top of your thing? And I just started to really think about it. I was like, yo, I think you're going through a little burnout. You can't, you're doing everything literally as a founder, as even a host of a podcast. You're literally doing everything. And now you have to do everything in business. You got to do, you have to look for money, as everybody knows, and still looking for the seed funding. And you got to, you have to stay abreast of knowledge in this Web3 space, and you stay on top of those things. Then you have to draft certain papers that goes towards the business and its identity and its mission statement. And then you're trying to do the podcast on a weekly basis. And a lot of people would be like, yo, you're only doing the show once a week, but you don't understand. You don't understand. I got other things going on. I am not a founder that can dedicate 125% of my time, because you know what? At the end of the day, life still gotta get paid, and I am a working founder. Yes, I am. I am a working founder. So when you're doing that, you gotta keep the lights on. You gotta keep the car running. You got to keep the car no pay. All that stuff, food, and then you gotta go into your thing, your hustle game, and you're doing that all your time, and then you're literally burning the candles at both ends. And then it comes to the weekend, and you got to dedicate time for that. But then you also got to spend time with the family. It's crazy. Everything was overlapping. Everything was literally running into each other. And I was sitting in front of the computer, and I was just like, yo, I couldn't get the energy to really push my fingers to type. I was going through burnout. So I just made, I was like, you know what? And it's the first of its time ever in the history of GCOM Radio, folks, where I have ever taken a break longer than a week. Maybe I've told you guys, hey, listen, I'm taking off because I'm doing this thing, either going on vacation or whatever, and I just took off 1 week, but 2 in a row. The only time where I take off that much time, even beyond the 2 weeks, is when it's the end of the year, and I'm like, I've been cranking out shows to you guys, really talking with you and really doing my other thing. And, of course, December is a month where people are really on slow mode, and they chilling with fam and all that. So, in the month of July, in these last 2 weeks, I was like, man, I got to take a break. I got to just step away and do my other thing, and not feel that it's, of course, these are responsibilities that I have to do, but at the same time, I have to be willing to give myself time to really not pressure myself and really not feel that I'm losing out on something. So I took the 2 weeks off, man. I took the 2 weeks off. At first, it was just going to be 1 week. And then I was like, I'm just not ready to come back yet. So I took off another week. So, now here I am doing a show for you guys. We're halfway through 2022 year. I was about to say the year of our Lord, but I don't want to say that because I'm not really religious like that. But you know what I'm talking about. 2022, a little bit past the halfway mark, and past, I could pretty much say in confidence a little past COVID. COVID is still floating around with all the variations that are out there, and we're dealing with the economy, we're dealing with the interest rates, we're dealing with political mischief and corruption, and dealing with all those things is going on. Everything is happening in entertainment, everything is happening around the world in other countries, and yeah, man, the world continues to turn. Do human beings deserve to live another 100,000 years? I mean, from what I've seen in the past couple weeks, man, it's hard. Shit, man. Can you imagine the God looking down on us and being like, I gave you little bastards life, and you're screwing it up. I mean, I'm telling you, man, I know God is saying something like that to that effect. We're like, I don't know what I'm going to do with y'all. Really, I don't know what I'm going to do with y'all. I put the breath of life into you. You couldn't, I understand you started early. You were just in your loincloths and all that. Now you're here. You got airplanes in the air. You're dealing with microbial life. You're sending rocket ships into space, and you're still here. God is a parent that is just really disappointed. When your parent, they not angry, they just disappointed. Like, I just can't believe you did that. I feel that's what God is. God is looking at us like, man, humans, oh man, and just walking away right now. So yeah, man, it's a funny thing, but we're here, man. We're here, and there's another episode that's going in with GCOM Radio. So a couple of things I wanted to talk to you guys about that I've seen over the weeks, and some of the things that you definitely already know that's taken place, and you've seen and heard a bunch of different pieces on certain subject matter. But yeah, but I'm here to give my own 2 cents. If I can add any words of wisdom or gems, or maybe just add on to the conversation that's happening right now in the public spaces and the private spaces and all that. So yeah, I'm here for it. So let's get started. Why not? And you know what? I forgot. I hope the last 2 weeks have been enriching for you guys, and also painful at the same time, because as you know, pain is also a great teacher because it teaches you what not to do. So hopefully that you had those learning lessons in these past 2 weeks and doing your thing. Hopefully you're not suffering burnout. So I like I said, and one last thing on burnout, I take the time to realize if you are suffering from burnout. Look at the signs. I'm sure there's certain things that kind of roll over in general across the board with people, and there's certain things that are specific to you that are signs of burnout. Take some time off, man. If you can't go on vacation around the world, to the Caribbean, wherever you're thinking about going, take some time out for yourself, whether it's meditating, going to the beach, doing things that make you happy, and just spend some time away from what you're doing, because and sometimes some people can't get away because their business is moving along, and it cannot survive without you. See if you have, that's why it's great to have a team. See if you have someone that could take your place for a couple days, so you could just decompress and figure out what direction you're going in. So, figure out what that burnout is to you. How do you deal with it? How do you move forward and make sure that you heal to a certain degree so you can get right back up on a horse and get to riding. So, all right, I'm your host, Nova Phoenix, on GCOM Radio, on iHeartRadio. And we got first thing, topics of this show is the Roe versus Wade. Everybody knows the Roe versus Wade. It is a travesty what is happening. It is a travesty what is happening. I mean, what's next? They already said, and they've good old Clarence Thomas, Justice Clarence Thomas, and all the other justices or key justices have already made some winks on what they want to do for the next challenge of the new SCOTUS that's dominated by really conservative Republicans. And you're talking about gay marriage. You're talking about the Texas State Board of Education wanting to teach children slavery. Is more so the word that they chose, involuntary relocation. Isn't that CRT though, if you think about it? Critical race theory, all that nonsense they were talking about with critical race theory, and they were afraid that they didn't want their kids to be feeling bad about slavery or what white people did or something like that. And then they're on this hunt for CRT. Where's CRT? Looking on the rugs, looking on the rocks, looking behind computers and in the closets. Where's CRT? Like, really going hard with CRT. And yet now they're talking about changing the word of slavery to involuntary relocation. Isn't that CRT? So also the Texas governor wants to use police and local police and state police to capture quote unquote illegal immigrants. And of course, in the great Lone Star state of Texas, and send them back to Mexico. How, pray tell, are you going to do this? I have no idea. How are you going to just randomly pull people over, shake them down and say, you're an illegal immigrant, I'm shipping you back off to Mexico? What? I mean, they already have it in line. I mean, they're telling, I thought that if this was going to be something that was going to come incrementally. They were going to deal with, striking down Roe versus Wade. And a year later, they're going to talk about, immigrants. And then a year later after that, child, and in 2 years, like something is just going to come, slowly but surely, and people really getting outraged what's the word I'm looking for? They have their moments of outrage. It's very spaced out. You know what I mean? So it's not like coming all on top of them, and then all of a sudden people are getting like super irate and just outraged and everything. Like, no, they're coming with it. Not just that with illegal immigrants and calling slavery involuntary relocation, but they've already gotten to the Jews. Yes, they've gotten to the Jews, where all Ohio legislators want to implement a new language to teach the alternate side to the Jewish Holocaust. If you haven't heard it, folks, please Google it. They are talking about changing the language to teach the other. What other side is there to the Jewish Holocaust? Please tell me, folks. What other side can you teach about the Jewish? I would love to know, what language are you going to use in this educational circles? How are you going to teach the Jewish Holocaust another way? Please. I mean, and this is coming. I'm talking about, I gotta say, these wild races are up in on. They are straight up imploding. I mean, they are going crazy, wild Joker style. We're throwing everything on the table. We're going to pass every and anything to make our mark of our power, our minority rule. This is how it goes. Control. They are on a tear. Forget having spaced out legislation passed. No, they are telling you what they're going to do in the next goddamn 6 months. And that's nuts. And I always felt like this. Wow, all this is happening. And I'm connected to a lot of people on Facebook. Excuse me, not even on Facebook, on Twitter, that's in the business, founders, VCs, a community that I'm really, I'm looking at the connections I'm making, and I'm really loving it. And I just find that extremely, extremely interesting that literally the world is burning. And I've said this before, and I just have to say it again. Like, Roe versus Wade was a historical moment in United States history where a federal law was turned over. It felt like time was rewinding, where people struck down, the SCOTUS struck down people's human right to abortion. And then, of course, the slick words are going to say, well, we didn't strike down abortion. We just, took privacy rights. That's what it is. We're making it state rights. and we're leaving it to the state, and that's where it should be. It should not be regulated by the federal government, right? So, it's funny. An historical moment in time. I can't think of anything as dastardly as what took place as far as striking down Roe versus Wade, where there was immediate protests, city to city across America. And certain people that are in the Web3 space or just business in general had nothing to say. Had absolutely nothing to say. And even when people were saying that, it's not going to stop with Roe versus Wade, as what Justice Clarence Thomas already threw it out there that he was, and there were certain I forgot the particular cases, but they were actually going to reconsider, as I said, gay marriage, talking about all these other things that they're going after, immigration, all these things. And no one, certain people had just nothing to say. And it incenses me that happens. Now, I'm not saying for people to get on their soapbox. You do whatever you want. This is your Twitter profile. But what exactly is going to be the thing that's going to turn your head where you have to say something about it? And one particular dude, I'm just going to have to say it. This guy, Pomp. I love Pomp for everything that he does. He's a Bitcoin aficionado, a true believer, a true lover of Bitcoin and where it's going, cryptocurrency in the Web3 space. I think his name is Anthony Pompliano, short Pomp. And I listened to him a lot. And then when this Roe versus Wade thing came, I really wasn't paying attention until I saw a tweet of his, and I was reading it, and it was just so tone deaf. Like, do you not see what's happening? It's like you're standing in the middle of an inferno and you're talking about Bitcoin. I'm like, totally like clueless. And what's the word I'm looking for? Just oblivious. I can't say oblivious because oblivious means that you're unaware. You're honestly, sincerely unaware of something that's happening. No, it's like, I know you know what's happening, but you choose not to say anything. And when you make your life just about your business or what's on the table or whoever that you're about, and you make that on, it screams like a lack of care and attention, and just being a basic human being that other people are hurting, and the only thing you tweet is big. I totally find that like almost psychotic. I'm sorry, almost psychotic, because I guess it doesn't affect him because he's a straight white male. So, when it doesn't affect you, I guess you really don't talk about it. But as I said, when you see these things happening and they're knocking down Roe versus Wade, and of course, right on the tail end, right behind that, now they're talking about gay marriage and striking that down, and you can talk about immigration, all these things that you're talking about that, of course, don't directly affect me. But at the same time, I know if you knock that down, I'm next. Black people are next. African Americans are next. Because if people allow those things to be turned over, all of a sudden we're going to fall back into 1852. Guess what's next, folks? So I happily fight for the rights of anybody in this country when it comes to any human rights, when it comes to abortion, gay marriage. I don't care what you do in your bedroom. That's your business. You want to go ahead and marry somebody, that's your business. I don't really care, because it has nothing to do with me. But now when you have something where people are actually going to say, well, all those gay marriages, we're going to make it a federal law to strike that. I'm not with that, man. I fully publicly support gay marriage, and you having the right to do whatever you want, just like any other heterosexual couple. That's your business. So you could pay your taxes or get relief on taxes or whatever it is that comes with being legally married in this United States of America. So yeah, it is absolutely mind-boggling to see how people are not talking. So it's not so much of what you say, it's what you don't say. It is screaming back at me. Amazing. So also, what really got under my skin is not just so much of the Roe versus Wade and everything like that, because that was, I never thought it was happening. When that paper was leaked, that they were saying that they were going to consider repealing and striking down Roe versus Wade, I really thought at the beginning, I was like, nah, they would never do that. That thing is a landmark piece of legislation. Like, it set the precedent to how we're going to deal with abortion and the human rights that women have in this country. I'm like, no, they're going to do that. They just meddling with this. They just playing around, and they did it. So as wild and as crazy outraged as I was with that, I was just as much outraged by the response of the Democratic Party and President Biden. I mean, it was crickets. If I could put crickets right in here, let me put some crickets in there. Hey, the Democrats, what are you going to do after the Republicans in SCOTUS struck down Roe versus Wade? What do you think is your counter attack to what's going on? So that's your answer. Okay, that's great. What? I mean, absolutely nothing. I heard nothing. I actually posted on Twitter a couple of days ago where there was this guy is a hardcore Democrat. He says he's not only been a voter of the Democratic Party, but actually joined in of course certain Democratic organizations and supported him and paid money and went out, I think, and tried to get more voters and all that. So he was all the way in, and this guy went off on his TikTok. Went off on the Democrats. He was like, wait a second, they just struck down Roe versus Wade, and all you can say to me is pay us more money. Yes, I do get those emails that say, hey, listen, if you're against this, give us $2, $5, $25. I'm like, and to hear the response from President Biden when he was asked, what are you going to do about it? And his answer was, well, you need to go vote. Vote? Yes, I'm telling you. When President Biden said his response to what the Republicans did in SCOTUS for what the Democrats should do was to vote, I'm like, motherfucker, that's what people did. People voted and you're not doing anything. The people did their job. They voted you in. You beat Trump. He's out. He was a sore loser, a little boy sucking his thumb, to the point where he created an insurrection of the Capitol where he was going to kill. He was going after his own vice president. I was ousted. I don't think he was very much embarrassed, but he was ousted. That old debacle that happened after January 6th, right? So now all your talking points that you said that you were going to do this and do that. And let me be honest with you. Let me be honest with folks. People didn't vote for Biden because they were in love with Biden. People voted for Biden because they were anti-Trump. They no longer wanted, even Republicans were against him. Even the Republicans was like, yo, man, as much as I want to roll with you, you are a moron. You are an idiot. Okay. They didn't want to roll with him. He was like, now we don't want you. And you saw that when that whole January and prior to January 6th, when they were checking the voting and see what the voter fraud, and we got to tabulate these votes if they're right, and all the people in those specific districts that was firmly in control of Republicans. Those Republicans, especially in Georgia, was like, they're right. There's nothing wrong with those votes. They did not want to. Besides the fact that they didn't want to break the law and go to jail, it was like, the votes are legit. Yeah, they're legit all the way. So I mean, the people voted for you, voted for Biden. Now all those talking points that Biden was going off on his campaign run, okay, it's time to start enacting. But what did Biden do? Biden made a whole 180 and was like, fuck you, we not doing that. He thanked black voters for getting them in specific areas and getting him to win for presidency. And what did he do? He did a complete 180 and smashed on the CBC, the Congressional Black Caucus. Yes, I think they're all a waste of time, and it's all a clown show to me. Personally, for me, the CBC is a clown show, but he went right on the CBC and he was wagging his finger talking about, you better do not to the point someone was smart enough to record that and put it out there. So Biden is, this guy and the whole thing with Manchin and Cinema and his throwing up of the hands, Republicans just do whatever they want. When they're in power, Republicans they just steamroll Mitch McConnell, Lindsey Graham, they just do whatever they want. But when the Democrats get in power, remember they were talking about we can take control of the Senate and the House, and we do this and we're gonna do that, and all we need to do is get the vice president to make the final call. Didn't say nothing about cinema, didn't say nothing about Manchin, and all of a sudden, when it's time to start passing legislation, it was Manchin and cinema just came out of nowhere. So, nope, we're not gonna do that. Nope, we're not gonna do that as Democrats. And I've always said, yeah, they are not Democrats, they are Republicans in Democratic clothing. Yes, these folks are putting on a game, but then after a while, I was like, wait a second, it's a little bit more than that. I'm not going to just leave it to the fact that Manchin and Cinema are just playing this game and they're not really Democrats. No, nonsense. It's more layers than that. Because if Manchin and Cinema, the same way where you have Republicans that were kind of stepping out of line, what did Trump do? He battered them back in the line. He was he was going to go after someone to primary them right out of there if they weren't loyal. And that's what he talked about. He talked about loyalty to him and to him and to him only. And it's just not a Trump thing. There are a lot of other presidents have done behind the scenes work where it kind of nudge these people right back into line and say, hey man, you got to do this or else, right? And then what does President Biden do? Absolutely give me a one big, say it third time, give me a one big fat zero. Absolutely nothing. Hey, President Biden, what are you going to do about Cinema and Manchin that's regularly going against the words of the Democratic Party? Well, they have a right to just do what they do. What? So you can't get to them line. You can't nudge them back in line. All right. You can't have a private conversation with them and say, this is what we're going to do. You can't do nothing. Your hands are tied. Republicans just wilding and roll. It's like a baseball game. They just running bases without hitting the ball. They're just knocking out the catcher. And then they throwing the ball, they catching the strikes and saying, that's not a strike, that's a ball. And they're bunting all the way through and just walking to the first and second and third base. And they're getting tapped out and saying, you ain't tapped me out. What are you talking about? Umpire, he did not tap me out. He flimsily touched my baseball jersey, but that wasn't a tap out. It was not a tap out. Republicans are basically ramrodding the whole system. And what did the Democrats do? Twiddling their thumbs, being extra nice. That's not how we do things here, folks. There are rules. There are rules that we have to follow. I know there's a little bureaucracy, but you know what? That's our democracy. And that's how we do things in this country. Get the fuck out of here. Give me a break with that. Come on now. The Democrats is running that game. So the Republicans is running all over the place, and the Democrats just like, well, we just can't do nothing. Wait a second. I smell a rotten rat. I smell something. So what was that saying? So something smells rotten in Denmark. Yeah. I'm not going for that, bro. Because my thing is, it's either you're playing this game where you're treating everything so lightly with white gloves, right, all daintily, or something a little bit more sinister, or you're down with it. You really don't want any change, because all those progressive things that you're talking about there, that the far left, and it's funny that the words that's being used. One person said on the news that I've heard, I forgot what person, but I do remember the words. Oh, we need to keep the toxicity of the far right and also the far left out from the conversation, or something to that matter. I'm like, wait a second, the toxicity and the extremism of the far right. Okay, I get that, because I've seen it in play. Everything you've seen in January 6th is what everything that the Republicans was getting behind when Trump was in for 4 years. But the extremism of the far right, what's the extremism of the far left? What are we talking about? Free healthcare? Oh my God, hold on. It's the end of the world. Free healthcare. So the extremism of the far left, and I hear also the words from moderate Democrats that they're saying that the progressives are the people that's bringing down the party. We don't need progressives bringing down a party. Moderate Republicans, or can we say, in other words, we can say legacy Democrats. Excuse me, you might as well say Republicans. It's all the same thing. Legacy Democrats. You can say institutional Democrats. Democrats don't really shake the ball. They'll take the talking points, but because they do say most of the things that the progressives talk about, pretty much the majority of the American citizens Republicans want. I guarantee you most Americans, I'm including Republicans, okay? I guarantee you, I would love to do this thing. There was this guy that does this show where he goes to Trump rallies. And what he does, he films Trumpers talking about specific subjects on Trump. I forgot what show does it. I forgot this guy. He's on YouTube and he shows the idiocy of a lot of these. Hey, Jordan Klepper, fantastic. I like what this guy does, right? Jordan Klepper, he makes these Trumpers look like straight idiots, right? I'm not saying all Trumpers are idiots, but the ones he found. I mean, a shining light of what Trumpism is all about, right? So I would love someone like Jordan Klepper to do something where you can say, hey, there's free healthcare in a deep red state. It doesn't have to be Jordan Klepper, and I said this on the show before. I guarantee you all the talking points that Republicans on the street talk about saying, oh my God, there's socialism, that's communism. We're not doing that. We're Americans, right? I guarantee you if you do a hidden camera show and put out a table saying this particular bill that was passed by a Democrat and supported by that local senator Republican, let's say Mitch McConnell, for instance. Mitch McConnell, and I guarantee you this, just put down your information and you're going to get free health care in 2 months with this new, let's say, a reorganization of the what's his name? Obamacare, right? A reorganization of Obamacare. The Republicans shifted around, but now you get free health care. I guarantee you those same people that spew those same talking points that Republicans talk about on the news, on Fox News, they would sign up right away. So much for that socialism, they would sign up on the spot. Which I would do it, but I don't want a black person to do it. I want a white person to do it. I want a white person to do it. 2 white people set up a little table with a little, a tablet or paper, and they could sign up. Oh, you sign up right here, free healthcare guaranteed. So these progressive that these demons that the moderate Republicans are talking about is bring down the party. No. What they're doing is they're using these talking points of the progressives to kind of lock down the voting, the mass voters that believe in those talking points. And then when they actually win based on those talking points, they kind of chuck them over their shoulder because really they don't want anything to change. Because what happens is most of the things that people support in this country might have an effect on the bottom line of some of these moderate Democrats that's kind of bought in by some of these corporations. I tell you that. And I say that without a problem because I'm a founder. Yeah, I have no problems with wanting to reach billionaire status. I have no problems with that. Absolutely no problems. The problem that I have is when money just goes in one direction continuously, decade after decade, and decade after decade, people become increasingly poor, and their options start to shrink, and then they have to go to crime. They have to literally have to choose between whether they're going to eat for the week or, I don't know, pay their rent. That's the problem I have that what's going on in this country. That's the issue. So all these people that are kind of bought in whores, okay, they're bought in whores for a couple of dollars, actually have chucked those progressive ideas over their shoulder and say, this is how we're going to do things. And they delay on purpose. They delay without an issue, and they kick the can down the road and say, we're kind of doing something. We're working it out. We're trying to be, what's the word? That's the finest big B word that Biden tosses around. Bipartisan on the bill. When you obviously see that the Republicans are in no way trying to be fair or hold hands or being objective and trying to come to terms with passing. They're not trying. They've said it already. Obviously, they are not playing by any game that the Democrats want to try to play. Stop it. The voters see that, and the voters are saying they are not playing. But what does Biden do? Well, these are the rules. I'm like, all right. The people they've had enough. They're tired. people are actually talking about a third party. Andrew Yang is really kind of at the forefront of this with the Forward Party. And I don't think people really like are behind like the Green Party so much. So, a lot of people, this is just the psychology of Americans. They think the Green Party may come off too soft. It sounds environmentalist and yeah. So people want something that's more like middle of the line. It's not so tree hugger-ish environmentally, when all those things are, what people want anyway. It's kind of like the same thing when people talk about defund the police. It's so easy to kind of disparage or destroy that catchphrase and just defund the police. It's so easy. Okay, I don't really care about the name. I just want the meat and potatoes with underneath that big fat line of defund the police. That's where you really call it whatever you want. I don't really care. But it needs to be done, and I'll get to that a little bit later. But yeah, as I said, they're not really there for that, man. They want to keep the everything in line. All right, they don't want to disturb anything. They don't want to disturb their money. They want to be elected. They want to make sure they get that same cash that they got from their local friendly lobbyists. They want to keep the status quo. Okay. They're trying to keep the status quo, and Republicans have always played themselves to be corporate friendly. We see that. We see that in the way they dress, the way they speak, the language. Black people are always naturally suspicious of Republicans because the legislation the Republicans always supported, even though they didn't say, we're going to lock you up, nigger. They don't have to say that because black people are smart enough to understand and read between the lines and listen to the things they're saying and not saying, where we kind of are very suspicious of Republicans Party. That's why, of course, majority of African Americans vote Democratic. But now you're starting to see that Democrats really, are they really progressive? They talk that game, and because you've been down this road before. You got slapped once, you got slapped the second time, you got slapped the third time. Now it's like, wait a second. People do smarten up. You can fool a lot of the American people for a good amount of time, depending on the way, because it's very slick. But eventually, people will start kind of waking up and saying, wait a second. That's kind of like what's happening with the Democratic Party. And I think a lot of that voice is coming from the black voters. And a lot of the white Democrats, especially after Roe versus Wade, they're like, wait a second. That was kind of like an anvil on the head. They was like, that's your response to vote? This, as I said, that guy went livid and blew up. So there's a lot of people feeling like that. So yeah, that's the Democratic Party for you, man. People are really done. So however that's going to manifest itself as far as the third party, whether it's the Forward Party, whether people are going to jump into the Green Party, whether it's going to be another party going to be in development, I'm all for it. I think that, to be on a serious note, that the government it's too corrupt. It's the way it's been going for the last 40 or 50 years. It is too poisoned to actually get anything of worthwhile to come out of the government, whether you're a Democrat or Republican. Remember, the poorest states are Republican. Mitch McConnell has been, I think, the senator of Kentucky, I said before, since the 80s, and nothing has demonstrably changed for the Republican voters on the ground in their homes, in their counties, trailer parks, wherever they come from, in the cities. I'm not trying to say that Kentucky is like it's a trailer park city. I'm not trying to say that, but there are a lot of different people along the tax bracket, whether you're middle class, low middle class, the working class, the poor, the dirt poor, whatever along that the hierarchical levels of class. People have been duped by everything. And it's easy because all Mitch McConnell has to do is talk about those brown people, those black people. You don't want them to get it. And then all of a sudden they click into the racism, which is a socialized thing. They've been socialized since they were single digit years, and they've fully grown into it and been brainwashed. So all the Mitch McConnell has to do is say, hey, look what they're getting. And then the people, of course, they get triggered. And all of a sudden, we don't want those people to get that. Yeah, we don't like communism or socialism. This is America. And all of a sudden, they're missing teeth, and they have bad health care, and they don't have any jobs. Their jobs become obsolete. But this is America. Yeah, I'm voting for Mitch McConnell. So I'm speaking directly not as an insult, not to the people you think I'm speaking to as far as progressives on the Democratic Party. I'm independent. I'm registered. I don't really care either side. As I said, right wing, left wing, both wings to the same bird. I'm speaking directly to those hardcore Republicans that have been a Republican for years, and your life is shit. And yes, you do have poor dental care. Not as an insult or trying to be stereotypical towards people in the South. You do have bad health care. You spend all your money. You're living paycheck to paycheck. You're possibly, for those that are living in trailer parks, you're desperate. You've gone to alcohol. You've gone to drugs. Now, mind you, methamphetamine. Mind you, the rich family actually distributed methamphetamine across America that hit predominantly the white Americans. So you're hooked on meth, you're hooked on drugs, heroin, and all these things. All the while, you're voting for the same people over and over again. That's not changing your life. When are you going to decide to look in the mirror and say, wait a second, my life has been shit for the past 15, 20 years. I keep voting for this guy and nothing ever changes in my life. I want you to look in the mirror as you're listening to me now on my podcast that you accidentally bumped into, whether you're playing in your car, on your radio, listening to it on your, your iPod or iPhone. Look in the mirror right now. Stop what you're doing. Look in the mirror and look around at the conditions of your home, out in your front yard. The thing is a mess. It's crazy. Look at all the bills that are on your table. How has your elected officials that you've been voting in for the past 15 or 20 years done anything different for you? Exactly. Don't you want to change? Don't you want something to change with your life? That you can have a better quality of life? There ain't no black people living around you. Let's keep it real. Let's keep it real. You don't live around any black people. You don't live around Mexicans, and probably the only Mexicans that you know are the shorthand cooks is making your steak or your grits and your eggs and serving you coffee or making your beds at hotels or whatever the case may be. Let's keep it real. So it's not black people or Spanish people that's destroying your life. Look at the real people that are destroying your life, the people that are directly responsible for your kids not eating, for your kids having going to poor schools, not being able to afford clothes. I'm actually watching a documentary. I found it where I forgot the name of it. It's like the poor class in, let me see if I can find it quickly. And it was this white family that's living in hotels. I didn't even know that was a thing, like a major thing. The people that are actually, they can't afford a home and they live in hotels. Not even, I can say hotels, motels, single floor motels. It is sad. It is truly sad. Let me see if I could find this. I was watching it last week, and I watched a lot of videos, and I actually forgot about it. I saw like 15 minutes of it. Let me see if I can find it. I'm scrolling through my history here. Poor. Man, it was so much. I think, yeah, here we go. I found it. America's Broken Dream, the middle class families living. Let me see if I'm playing a little bit here. It's got a lot of views, about 2.1 million views. It was posted 8 months ago on a profile called Java Discover. It's called America's Broken Dream, the middle class families living in motels. There you go. And it's sad. It's really, truly sad where a couple cannot really afford to have a home. They would say they're living out of their car. They live in a motel. This guy works for Disney. Not to knock Disney, but let's keep it real. And that's what he does. And he's got a couple kids that live in a hotel with him, a 2-bedroom hotel. And he's happy. He shows that he's happy. He's not really happy. He's doing that because he is employed by Disney. He does not want to lose his job. So the people that are filming this are covering this particular individual, and they ask him how he likes his job and his current situation. Of course, he's not going to lie. He's not going to be like, "Oh, this is fantastic." No, he's honest and saying, yeah, he's struggling and he wish things were better, but he does it all the while putting a smile on his face. But you know what? Really, when they remove the cameras and they turn off the lights and that production crew waves goodbye, this man is sitting in his anger and his frustration. His kids are living there. As a man, he feels that he's failing. As a mother, she feels that she cannot provide for her children. They're living paycheck to paycheck. This guy was making practically nothing. And they went to another family, same situation, and they're pissed off and they're mad and there's fights and the kids are fighting and the frustration between the husband and wife, and it happens every other day, and this guy is destroyed. His confidence is destroyed. And that ain't got nothing to do with black folk. They ain't got nothing to do with the Spanish people. They got nothing to do with nothing that the Republicans spew out one day to the next on Fox News. It's wild. It's wild. It's crazy. Anyway, next thing. So check out that documentary, as I said, man. Check that out. And it's an eye opener because, I'm not saying I don't live like a king, but to know that there are people that are poor out there. And I tell my daughter all the time, eat the food that's on your plate. You're lucky that you can do this. You're lucky that you can do that. There are other people that don't have half of what you got. So understand, and she's young. She doesn't understand it yet, but she will. That's why it's important to put people or to put folks into other situations or walk through the city. Or it's good to even, feed the homeless. That's definitely what I'm going to do this Christmas. Feed the homeless. See what other people have that they don't. A lot of people don't have what she has. It's amazing, man. So check that documentary out. Change your condition, and the way you change your condition is by changing the people that you voted for. The Highland Park shooting. Oh, the shooter, man. Everybody knows about what happened with that. It's terrible. What took place over in the 4th of July, but really, everybody knows what took place on the 4th of July, and everything is just conveniently again swept under the rug. We're not dealing with the guns. Nobody wants to deal with it, of course. Especially after the Uvalde shooting, right? Of all those children. We sweep it under the rug, and it's already been swept under the rug. And we're July 11th. So this young kid, this crazy kid, and I appreciate that one of the news media outlets said young rapper. I'm like, stop it. The news always try to somehow deviate or misdirect people, and they kind of try to assassinate the character of a whole genre of music and the people who create it. I know they're slick with that. I know what they're trying to do. All right. But we're not going to get off the topic here or the bullseye, what's happening of course, the proliferation of dangerous weapons. And I believe in the Second Amendment, and I'm a little shaky with that term now because I come upon some new information about what the Second Amendment was at the time that it was created many moons ago, and that people kind of use the Second Amendment as a reason to own 1,001 different guns, but that's not what was the original intent of the Second Amendment, the right to own guns, all that stuff. So I will come with that explanation on another show. But yeah, I am a believer in self-defense, even with weapons. And people. And as weird as it may sound, come from me, people collect guns. We've seen it in magazines. There was one particular one where this photographer was going to a lot of different people that were gun owners. And these people had so many guns where they were laying them out on the roofs of their houses, in their front or backyards. The kids are holding guns. They're holding guns. I mean, they have guns galore. But then my argument is that some people collect pennies, right? People are collectors of things. Some people are collectors of weapons. And then some people, they say, oh no, but that's a deadly weapon, the AR-15. Yes, it is a deadly weapon. It is a deadly weapon. Yeah, you can kill a lot of people in the shortest amount of time. Now, that's why I'm at a constant tug of war, banning AR-15s or keeping them, or in ways where we can institute some sort of legislation no different from how people get their car licenses. Maybe we need to do something like that. So I'm constantly battling within myself. Okay, how do we really got to deal with this gun issue? We really got to deal with mass shootings. And I just don't think it's guns. I think it's also a mental health issue, because plainly you see these people are not of sound mind and body. And they're going out there and they're lashing out by killing other folks. And it's almost in sense, it's a cry for help. And there are probably many other signs that show indications of mental instability when you see the backstory of a lot of these mass shooters, that they had problems. And then of course the news goes to the parents and to the friends, and they say, I never know little Jenny was my boy. No. He was already disturbed, and you knew that, and you did nothing about it, and you looked past it because that was your son. So we have to figure out mental health. And that's something, the more and more I look at it, the more and more I see that America has a serious psychological problem. We have a problem. I'm not talking about the people that are inflicted with mental health issues, but how we deal with mental health in this country, and how we just gloss over it, especially when we're dealing with AR-15s, because someone's getting paid. Someone, lobbyist, is kind of greasing the palms. Someone is making out when they say thoughts and prayers for those that are dead. So, we have a serious problem with mental health in this country, and we don't deal with it because there's things that are more important than mental health, and that's making money, right? That's what we do. I mean, people want to make money, and we're willing to give a whole bank load of thoughts and prayers to those that have suffered under, terrible situations and events. So the Highland Park shooting, it's just an indication, like all the other mass shooting, of a bigger problem in America that's just not going to be solved with legislation. There has to be a 360-degree revolution of how this society behaves, man. And everything has to be turned over. All aspects of our society has to be turned over. But this is also an interesting thing, everything with Jayland Walker, how there was also videos of people actually, I don't even know the name of the man. Let me see the name of this kid. Highland Park. I forgot the name of it. I was supposed to write it down. This kid's name is, Cremo. His name is Robert E. Bobby Cremo III. Let's call him Cremo for now, for the sake of argument, right? So Robert E. Bobby Cremo. So Cremo, in a lot of the videos, they were using Cremo versus, Jayland Walker. They had a split image of Jayland Walker. Of course, this is the young man that got shot up by the police. I mean, over 100 bullets, and we'll get into more about that later, because of a traffic stop. And here it is, we have Cremo, the mass shooter that actually killed people, that Jayland Walker didn't touch anybody. He ran away. It was an alleged traffic stop, and he ran away, and they massacred him. It was the only thing I could think of was the mob hit, the Valentine's Day massacre, right? Where it was all these killings of massacre. It was and this briefly, folks, the St. Valentine's Day massacre was a murder of 7 Irish members and associates of Chicago's North Side gang. It was just a bloodbath. People were just getting killed left and right, and of course, it was associated. Of course, hence the name St. Valentine's Day massacre. It was based on around the St. Valentine's Day holiday, and all those people were killed. Roughly, I've heard this. This is a part of American lore, right? These stories of gangsters and killing. So I related to that because when you hear about, if you understand the St. Valentine's Day massacre and what the video that you saw of Jayland Walker getting riddled. Anyway, we'll get back to that. So how is it that this guy Cremo that was caught, he ran, Jayland ran, Cremo ran. Jayland didn't have a weapon. Cremo tossed his weapon. Now, allegedly, the cops at the time of the shooting of Jayland Walker, they said he had a weapon. Of course, there was none found, but Cremo was found. I believe they did find his weapon. And they captured Cremo. Cremo came in alive. This young boy came in alive. But hold on, Jayland Walker, he was dead. And then that story has been told and told again on public news. And how is it that every time that when it comes to assailants that are white, they get taken in without a scratch on them? Matter of fact, not a scratch on them, but they get taken to McDonald's to get something to eat before they go to the county jail. But then yet when it comes to unarmed black men like Jayland Walker, they end up dead. So it's not something that you can ever try to say it was isolated incident, 2 different cities. We see a pattern here. There's a pattern, of course, when you're dealing with systemic racism, when you're dealing with white supremacists that have fully invaded police departments across America, and they just don't go out and do their jobs. They go out to find excuses to unload their registered weapons on another black soul. And they'll say, well, I was afraid for my life. So it's funny how we see that again, and it happened in the fairly same amount of time next to each other. And it's interesting how people have been putting that out online. And it just proves of the fact that there is a difference of how police treat white assailants as opposed to alleged black assailants or perps or whatever you want to call it. So as far as the Jayland, the July 4th Highland Park shooting on July 4th, the Roe versus Wade. Trust me, there are a lot of white Americans. I know white Americans listen to me out there. It wasn't such a jolly, fun July 4th, was it? It wasn't such a fun, jolly July 4th to hear the bombs bursting in air, right? Gave truth to our flag, that our flag was still there. However those words go. Something I've been singing for a long time. So I'm sure there are white folks that are out there in the recent overturning of Roe versus Wade that people were not all fully patriotic that July 4th. And then when you hear about what happened again with the Highland Park shooting, it brought down people's confidence even lower. I don't know how it could get lower than it's already been. But people do not feel as American and as free as they've been professing for the past 50 to 100 or since 1776. So that's interesting. So now off to Jayland Walker. Of course, this brother was shot at over 100 times and caught 60 of those bullets. Now, I did not see this video. Because I didn't want to see. I'm like, I understand the outrage. My blood curdles every time I hear the story, but I don't always want to see the raw footage because it does something to you psychologically. And I feel that I don't always have to expose myself to it. But then there was one video, I saw a piece of it on doing my search, and I actually brought myself to watching a couple of seconds. I still haven't seen the full thing, but I did see the shooting, and it was, this was not a routine traffic stop. This was not chasing some quote unquote perp like in Colors, in the movie Colors from back in the day of LA gangs and police having to deal with LA gangs and all that. Go watch. I haven't seen Colors in so long. I think it was Sean Penn and I forgot the guy's name. I think he was in I forgot the mafia movie with Corleone. I forgot the guy was in Colors. Anyway, it's not like that movie Colors. No, this dude ran away from a alleged traffic stop or whatever it is, hopped out his car, ran away, and they unloaded their weapons. I mean, the amount of bullets that used the ricochets off the ground. I think there was a back wall for the seconds that I did say he ran towards a wall, and the puffs of smoke that was coming off. I mean, you only see this shit in movies. The only thing I could closely relate to that is Training Day with Denzel Washington, when the Russian mob caught up to him and they lit him up. I'm like, yo, they did not go there to arrest. They went there to kill. Their intent was to murder. The amount of bullets. I mean, and again, the response even from the local PD, because of course, when the video came out, the community was upset, right? Rightfully so. How we have this brother, why he couldn't get locked up, even if he did commit a crime. We do have laws in this country where they do go before a judge and get a trial, or whatever you want to call it, or to be judged if a crime was committed. Not to be rained down upon with the amount of bullets that they sent towards Jayland Walker. Amazing. And the response from the people when they went to the local police department, they were 50 cops lined up in full gear, full ride gear, militarized up the wazoo from neck to freaking boot. And that is the exact response that black people were talking about for January 6th, because if it was black people going to the Capitol building and did what those insurrectionists did, it would have been a different response. And this response, what the response that the people were facing there in Akron, Ohio, is exactly what it would have been on January 6th. People, we play no games when we say what would happen. Black people are not off the mark by thousands of miles. We are spot on. And that went to show how that would have been treated that day. Now, there was a press conference that was done, or some little bullshit press conference that was done with Akron Police Chief Steve Mylett and Mayor Dan Horrigan of Akron, Ohio. And they were talking about their roving caravan of cars of protesters is going around the city. And as long as they don't engage in violence, then it's okay for them to protest. It's okay. As long as they don't engage in violence. It's funny. It's funny that to hear that. Because if you watch the video of what happened to Jayland Walker, the pure, raw, destructive action that happened to Jayland Walker, where there was no compunction, there was no second thought, you only had to load and reload, and what they did to him when he fell to the ground. Is that not the utter description or practice or visual of violence that was acted upon Jayland Walker? That reeks of violence. Yet, hold on a second, but the police chief Steve Mylett and Mayor Dan Horrigan is asking that you can protest just as long as you don't get violent. It's crazy to hear that coming out of the mouths of this. To me, he's really smart. I think the police chief was really smart. He was very calm, nothing to worry about, right? If I was a person that you walked up on, you were walking about your business, and I walked up on you and I started smashing your face, and out of nowhere, I'm knocking you left and right, kicking you in the ribs, dropping elbows on your head, throwing you against a car, smashing you through a store window, bring you back over onto the sidewalk side, continue to pummel you with my bare hands. Well, you are down, you are a bloody pulp. What do you think the reaction should be from you or your family? What do you think is the appropriate response when something like that happens to you from family or friends? What do you think their response should be when they see you beaten to a bloody pulp on the ground that I did to you? What do you think should happen to me? You think, well, it's okay. As long as we don't have any more violence, it's okay. It's all right. Just get up. We're going to take you to the hospital. You got a couple of broken ribs, a broken in cranium, broken eye socket. We do not know if you're going to be able to see out your left eye, but as long as we don't have no violence, then that's okay. Or say a family member comes in and says, hey man, don't trip on him. He didn't mean to, he just felt some type of way and you stepped on his shoe, on his new Nikes. But we shouldn't have any violence from the family or the friends or the person that got beaten to a pulp. No violence, no violence. How crazy is that? With the violence, the degree of violence that fell upon Jayland Walker, the fire and brimstone from those guns. And now the mayor and the police chief is saying, well, you could be in a protest in a car and you could ride around the city just as long as you don't be violent. What? I think it's utter madness. But I understand. I get it. I also saw a press conference with the family. They didn't want violence. They wanted to go through the process. But I'm just wanted to point out the absurdity of acting very violent, sadistically violent on someone, and then you think that there shouldn't be violence brought to you. I find that extremely funny. And I there's no other way that I can articulate that where I think it's utter absurdity. That's just me, because if it wasn't within a situation between cop and person, if it was between person and person, what we would say when we would see it on social media, I hope that other person whoops his ass, right? We say that. Or you hope his boys come around that corner that way. All right, we know this what happens in the streets. We know what happens. We either laugh about it, we be like, uh-oh, we know what's coming. And then they have the audacity to say, you can protest, but as long as there's no violence. What? This boy is dead. My thing is, what do you expect the response should be? What do you expect should be the response from family, the friends, the community? And I'm not just saying Jayland Walker. I'm talking about what's historically been going on in Akron, Ohio. The police aggression, police brutality, the racism, the disenfranchisement of the black community in Akron, Ohio. Constantly trying to fight to get one step ahead and constantly being battered down in one way or another because of a system of racism that's put in place to keep those people disenfranchised and 5 steps behind. And then you have those other cases of police brutality and the people fighting for rights, people asking for change to happen. The whole thing, the biggest case there was recently was George Floyd. And then you're saying we shouldn't have violence. I'm not saying for people to be violent. I'm not saying this. But I'm saying the utter absurdity to say that when this young man, violence was visited upon him 1,000-fold, and he did not deserve that. Interesting. So all the officers, as they said on this online talk between the Akron Police Chief Steve Milet and Mayor Dan Horrigan, they were saying all the officers are on administrative leave. The officers' names have been kept away from the public because there has been talk of bounties on the heads of these police officers. The level of aggression, quote unquote, that's what he used, against these officers is crazily high, and they're not going to release the names, but they're eventually going to release the names and put it out there. Again, I'm going to bring this back. What do you think should be the appropriate response between two people and that person got beaten to a pulp, and what do you think his families and friends should do? So you're going to commit an act of disgusting violence against somebody, and now you're saying now you want some sort of a degree of what's the word I'm looking for? Some small degree of civility. Now all of a sudden everybody should be civil. and they don't want to release the names. Of course that's going to happen. Of course that's going to happen. I said on my show many moons ago, I say it's going to get to the point where the people on the streets are going to be like, we ain't getting nowhere, so we might as well take justice in our own hands. And just as much as you can visit people at their homes, police officers could do raids, early morning raids and no knock warrants. It's the age of the internet and people can find people. And these cops are going to be going about their business because they're on administrative leave. People are going to be showing up at their house where they food shop. It's going to be dangerous for them. Of course. What else do you think is going to happen? I don't understand how people, when we have this situation of police brutality and we have a police precinct that has historically treated black people like animals for decades and nothing has changed, and it comes to a crescendo to the point where the community is going to fight back. And what do you think was going to happen? You think it's just going to keep happening and the black people are going to still get their heads knocked over, and then it's like, well, we're police officers, so nothing's going to change. Forget law, forget all that. Forget what is the local law that's on the books. We're dealing with people. When you hear situations of women that have been abused for many years, and nothing happens and no one comes to her rescue. That famous case of Lorraine Bobbitt. Remember the case of Lorraine Bobbitt? I think it was her husband or boyfriend. She was being physically abused for years and she took it. I don't know if she showed signs or not, but eventually she had a breaking point. Lorraine Bobbitt waited for, I don't know if she drugged him. I think she drugged him and he went to sleep. She cut his penis off, drove away and threw it in the forest. Do you understand? Do you understand, people? Do you understand? Look up the Lorraine Bobbitt case. And it was jokes for days when that story broke. Jokes for weeks, years. She had her breaking point where she cut off dude's member. She was like, yo, I'm tired of getting abused. And she lost all that, what do you call it? Calm and objectivity and being passive. And, all that went right. It clicked. She switched over. She was like, yo, there was no logic in it. She was like, yo, I got plans. She cut my man junk off. Then it did get reattached. I don't know if it works still, but man, it's gonna be this dude better have one hell of a doctor to reattach that joint. I don't even know how quick it was. That's the woo. Yeah, man, that's But yo, she had a big breaking point. And I bring that up because now when you have a community that have historically gone through police aggression week in and week out, year in and year out, what do you think is going to be the response? And there's no way that you going on camera, you going and say, hey, we need peace, is going to help that. Because when the moment calls for it, it's going to call for it and it's going to switch over like what Lorraine Bobbitt did. And there's no amount of police and riot gear. Yeah, I understand you guys are fully suited. I'm just saying for what it is, because it happened with George Floyd. Now it's the talk is happening where it's not as far as burning down whole communities. It's being direct, as what this guy was saying, the level of aggression against these officers, this bounties. People are saying, black people or the people that's suffering are getting hip to the game. They're like, all right, we ain't gonna burn down our communities, but we gonna take our frustration, our anger a little bit more surgical. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying it in a joking way as I'm being like flippant to the loss of life. Either way, I get it. I don't believe in violence. Trust me. But what do you think? I'm just saying that every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. That's physics, right? It's the same thing with emotion and people and planets and all these things, matter, right? In science, it's the same thing with people. So you're going to eventually get a flex back is going to come back on you. So these guys have felt like they were impervious or if they were in some sort of force field. When this happened, what do you think is going to be the response when they go about their lives? And in the age of the internet, anybody can find anybody, to be honest. Okay. I think what happened, it was I think they visited a police chief. There was something that happened, and some dude got ran up on, a black dude, and the people, I forgot, there's so many cases. The community wasn't hearing for it, and they didn't do nothing. They just found this guy where he lived, and they protested outside his door. I think a police chief or something like that. It was like, yo, in the age of the internet, you got to be careful. Even with cops, you got to be careful. You can't be found. So you think, and I'm saying it's not, I'm not saying it as a threat. I'm just saying in the age of the internet, you can do this, right? It'll continue, but people, and it's not even coming from the inside the community. There's these internet sleuths that find people, they find people, and they share it online. And next thing you know, people know where you live. Now you're putting your family at risk. You're putting your whole life at risk. Now you're gonna move out your town. And really, to keep it real, I really don't care because this kid should not be dead. But what I'm saying is the action, what happens. And sometimes you have to think a little bit because that same energy will come back on you, especially in the 21st century, the internet. So it's not something that can be isolated. Okay, the government's going to deal with it. We're going to go through the case. We're going to pay out money. Now people are way beyond that. The frustration levels are beyond that. People are like, yo, fuck the law. I'm gonna go find this dude. And that's why you have what they said. They're talking about there's bounties on these dudes' heads. Now you know these cops is like, damn. As racist as they may be, as much fucked up shit that they did with Jayland Walker, now they thinking about, damn, I got caught up in this, man. Now I gotta look left and right everywhere I go because I might get clapped. That's where it's going. That's what people are talking about. So, hey, man, I wish the family, and then lastly, there was a press conference with the family. The family was calling for peace and everything, and people going there. I was going with the crowd. You could find it on the line. And then the last question, the representative of the family was talking about how they wanted to go forward, asking for peace, especially the family coming up on the mic, asking for peace and all these things and how they want to go forward, But it was the last question that got me, that kind of, because I was like, yeah, we're trying to figure this out. But then again, gets you sharp. Someone in the crowd asked the representative of the family one question. He was like, wait a second, how can we get justice when they have this bill called HB 109 that got passed in Ohio? It got passed without a problem, but yet when we're asking for change to stop these cops from killing black people, we can't get any legislation. It gets stalled, but yet HB 109 gets passed. If people don't know what HB 109 is, it's a bill that got passed that it bills to stiffen riot, quote unquote, riot penalties and stop police from limiting guns on the scene. That was the title here. But what is going to happen, that what is a part of House Bill 109, they said it includes extreme penalties, among them the seizing of assets and shutting down organizations for those who engage in constitutionally protected speech, allows police officers to sue and bankrupt people who make quote unquote false complaints against them, but provides no detail as to the type of complaint, quote unquote, or who decides what is false, quote unquote. And lastly, creates 3 new felonies and 1 new misdemeanor, and enhances 4 current offenses for actions that are already illegal. Basically, whatever protests that are happening in response to any police aggression, they pass this bill. Republicans in the Ohio House pass this bill so they can make these protests sort of like extremist insurgent events. So another article says House Bill 109 creates new felony offenses of riot assault, quote unquote, riot vandalism, quote unquote, and bias motivated intimidation, quote unquote. It also enhances penalties for existing offenses like rioting, aggravated rioting, disorderly conduct, and vandalism. The Democrats that were on the ground in Ohio definitely railed against it. They didn't want it to pass. Republicans, of course, were all for it, and it passed. I think 50. It passed. I don't know exactly the numbers, but it passed without a problem. And that's what this brother was saying as part of the conference. He was saying, how can we expect justice if we also now have a bill that was passed, HB 109, that limits our abilities to protest something that we have valid reasons for protesting, in particular when it comes to police aggression. And the representative did not have anything. He didn't have a worthwhile response to say to that. And that goes to show that you cannot treat this thing and look, as they say, you cannot expect change if your oppressor agrees with the tactics that you use to protest against the oppressor. Understand what I'm saying? As long as your oppressor is comfortable, then nothing will change from the protest that you do. And that goes even against the spirit of protesting, because the whole point of protesting is for people to hear your word when you haven't been heard before. And there are many tactics that can be used for people to hear you, like when they block highways, like when they get in the streets, they stop regular operations of the city. Various things that protests, the tactics that protesters use to fight against a certain injustice. So now this bill has passed where it's going to further criminalize people that protest against police brutality. And I agree with the dude. So how quiet and how much can you go along with something that's against everything within your being? That's a human right for people to have. That means to be alive, to be taken in alive, especially if it's not something that is a danger to police officers. Basic human rights. So moving along. So R. Kelly got 20, 30 years. I'm on a rip right here. R. Kelly, man. He got sentenced to 30 years. Everybody knows. Good riddance. Ghislaine Maxwell, she got sentenced to 20 years. Good riddance. Eric Holder, a.k.a. Shitty Cuz, he got found guilty of first-degree murder plus 2 counts of attempted murder, because I didn't even know this. He shot 2 bystanders when he shot at my brother. And I can't believe I forgot my brother's name. It happens to me, man. Nipsey Hussle. My bad, y'all. It happens. I forget Jay-Z's name, Nipsey. When he shot, I didn't even know he shot that. He hit 2 other people. But I personally don't think he's gonna survive in jail. Wherever jail he's gonna go to, he's gonna be on 23-hour lockdown. Not because he's misbehaving, but because there's no other place for him to go when he get wherever he goes. He already got lumped the fuck up right before his hearing. Let me tell you, Nipsey Hussle was loved in the community. And that same community got connections in jail. So it's not if, it's when. So, hey, it is what it is. Vio con Dios, my friend. But Ghislaine Maxwell, she got 20 years. I'm like, Ghislaine, she got 20 years. That's great. But there's an interesting question I have. Ghislaine got 20 years. But just a question, what about all those others that used her services for underage kids on this island? So Ghislaine Maxwell gets 20 years, so we're not going to talk about the people that actually use her services. Alrighty then. Shall we move on? Airlines is having an issue, man. Treating passengers with absolute disgusting trash. And they're saying they're stranding passengers. They're not giving any vouchers for hotels, for food. The actual pilots are going on strike because they've been stretched. They just don't have enough personnel. A lot of these airlines. And it's unfortunate you see it on the news, but it's some interesting information that came out where the airlines actually got money for, I think, in terms that was directly related to COVID. And they got billions of dollars. And they let go a lot of personnel, of course, during the pandemic. And people were kind of sheltered in. But they got tons of money, and I wish I could give you more detail. I'm going to give you more detail next week. I'll have it at the top of the list, but I found it extremely funny. Where there's some family members that I know that just couldn't fly, and I was like, I don't think it's a good time to fly right now. People are going to fly anyway. I guess you could fly to the islands. You get stranded in Florida. That's one thing. But if you're doing international flights, I think it may not be great. I've heard people, even in countries on the other side of the planet, they're having the same problem. The understaffed the jet fuel and all these things are stranding passengers. But in particular, American airline companies, they had some sort of money that was given to them that's related to the pandemic, got billions of dollars, and somehow they saw this happening and they didn't fix it. I will get more into detail of it. I just find that extremely crazy that that's happening. For shame. I'm just so you know what? And I say this, I'm not anti-corporate. I'm not anti-corporate. I'm a founder myself. But as a consumer, I'm a consumer before I was a founder ever. I feel like more and more in today in comparison to like the 80s and 90s. In the 80s and 90s, it was customer service. It was products that you can put your confidence in. If it wasn't this particular product because it was cheaper, you knew if you bought this for $150 or whatever X amount of dollars more, you knew you were getting a good product. You were happy for buying that product. And what happened? What's happened since in 20 years, since the 80s and 90s? I feel that products have become increasingly worse over the years, and customer service has become non-existent. Of course, with technology, you can't speak to a human being. You're speaking to some sort of automated voice, or you may be, I don't really care about globalization as far as speaking to somebody that's out of town. But in terms of the service, what companies are doing now, you're speaking to an automated voice, or they want to charge you for these services. I mean, 50, okay, you can get help with this particular product you're having problems with, but we're going to charge you $50, $60. I'm like, what? I feel that products have become so much worse since back in the day, and it's becoming more and more, these companies are just doing a gotcha and grab. They're doing a gotcha and grab, like, come buy my product. I mean, they're inundating your email box for this product. Their ads are in your face 24/7. They're telling you to buy this new product, buy. As a consumer, you finally buy the product is shit. And then all of a sudden you want a return on your money. You can't get a return on your money. That even goes for services like Apple Pay, for instance. I had my niece, she went to go to the movies. The guy at the gate was like, no, you can't go there because you're underage. I forgot what movie she wanted to go see. She paid through Apple Pay. I sent her that money. And then the dude that was an idiot didn't want to give her a refund from that and whatever, or even a free ticket or something. Like, yo, listen, I don't know how this Apple Pay thing works, but at least I can give you like a free ticket or something, and then you come back and see another movie. No, he didn't want to do none of that. So her and her friends got turned away. But the thing was, I'm like, yo, I want to get my money back. So of course my wife tries in some way call Apple Pay. She couldn't find any way to try to get the money back, that movie ticket money back. And that's what I'm saying. A lot of these companies, it's like they're getting more and more cutthroat. The products have become cheaper, and they're just poorly made. And then when you try to get your money back, and I'll say this and be fair, the only company that really has great in terms of policy when it comes to customer service is Amazon. Now, you could buy a product with Amazon, and Amazon be like, yo, just keep it. Don't worry about it. That's how much money they make it. They like, oh, you bought I think I bought a blow up bed or something like that, and it was the wrong one. I wanted to give it back to Amazon. The Amazon one was like, yeah, don't, just keep it and we'll send you another one. I'm like, what? For real? I'll give that to Amazon. I'll give that to them. But a lot of companies is this new trend where you're just not getting great service, and especially with these airlines is taking your money and they just stranding you. They just like, voucher, what voucher? Wherever you at, you figure it out for yourself. But right now you stranded. We can't do nothing for you. You're gonna have to wait for this next flight, which is in 48 hours. So yeah, it's not what's going on there. I'll go into a little bit on the upside of what's happening. I'll say I give you this in California. California has chosen to make its own insulin. I'm like, California is like damn near its own country. And that's what seems like it's happening, because a lot of these states are doing their own thing. California, Governor Gavin Newsom has passed an initiative where he's going to allocate $100 million from the $308 billion state budget to go towards development and manufacturing of insulin. I think that's fantastic. Shout out to Governor Gavin Newsom. I mean, if there's a way to big up your state and doing it the right way to help the people, this is the way you do it. I'm interested to know how much it costs. They say usually on the average range is $300 to $500 per month that people would get their insulin for. That's expensive. But how much? What are you talking about? $20 a month, $30 a month? I think it's fantastic. I'm all for it. Again, a big shout out to Governor Gavin Newsom for doing something brave and courageous and to really help the people. Now look, we got to deal with homelessness. Yeah, but yeah, one thing at a time. Shout out to Governor Gavin Newsom. The Sri Lankan people protested. If you haven't been paying attention, the Sri Lankan people have ousted the president Gotabaya Rajapaksa. I think that's how you Gotabaya Rajapaksa. My man hightailed it out the country on his plane because people are tired of, you know, the country's in debt. Their reserves in the bank is about 1.1 billion or something like that, and they actually owe $7 billion. There's no way where these people are going to work themselves out of debt. So the people are tired. The people are tired of this little particular motherfucker, and he hightailed it out. I saw you the video where you have the assistants, whoever is working in the cabinet of this president, and they are rushing to the plane. rushing to the plane. All the while you have, what's the UK president right now? He stepped down. UK president steps down. What's this guy's name? He looks like Trump. Prime Minister Boris Johnson resigns after mutiny in his party. I don't know details. I don't really give a goddamn. I guess I go a little bit more detail next show. But it's interesting how the UK Prime Minister, they were tired of his shit and he resigned. Now you have this guy, President Gotabaya Rajapaksa. He fucking took off and he's saying he's going to be fully out of office, I think by the end of the month or something like that. But people are tired of the bullshit. People are tired of the bullshit. They're saying they went to the WTF, World Trade Organization, WTO, World Trade Organization, I think it was, and was the World Bank, the president of Sri Lanka, and I think they went to them 7 times, multiple times. Let's say like that. I don't know specifics, but they still couldn't work themselves out of debt. And now they're in this situation, and I'm like, yeah, not so good. Look, America is known. One book I encourage people to read is Confessions of an Economic Hitman. Confessions of an Economic Hitman. I got the book. I want to get this guy, John Perkins. John Perkins is a great read. He pretty much breaks down how the United States gets down around the world. Again, this book is available. I think it was a New York Times bestseller. I'm not really breaking any ground here. But for those that have not seen this book, if you want to understand why Sri Lanka is what's happening in Sri Lanka and why you have a lot of different people revolting in their own country, check that book out. That's all I'm saying. Just get a little enlightenment of what's going on. The American people. I'm speaking to you directly, American people. Please, if you want to know what's going on around the world, check out Confessions of an Economic Hitman. This man was an economic hitman himself and came to terms. I was like, I'm going to write my own book and I'm going to let people know what I've been doing at the service of the United States government. So, yeah, man, check it out. So last thing, I'm on my way out of here with the last thing, Kehlani. I love Kehlani. I wish I could talk about a lot of different music that's come out, but I think enough. Shout out to Kehlani. She's an R&B artist. She came out with, I had no idea that she came out with a new album. It's called Blue Water Road. I'm a big fan of Kehlani. She's coming out of California. I think she's from the Bay. But she actually did a live show this past weekend on Sunday. It was in New York too. I'm like, how does this get by me? I don't know. It was in New York by Pier 17. It was sponsored by Grey Goose Essences in Bloom live stream, and it happened this past Sunday at Pier 17 in New York, and she did a fantastic show from what I've seen. She actually sounds like her record as opposed to what happened at the Verses with Mario and Omaria. I think it was a great show. Don't trust me. It was not bad Verses. It was not bad. It actually goes to show that we got to remember there are studio singers and there are singers. Who are these artists? Is Chris Brown a studio singer or is Chris Brown an actual singer? That did not happen back in the day. Back in the day in the 80s or the 70s prior, you had to know how to sing. But as the time went on and technology got better, you had people that could not sing. You can actually pitch people's voice to the right tone, even if you change the speed of the beat. So if the beat goes, I don't know, from 80 beats per second to 150 beats per second. You can actually speed that beat up. You can actually speed up the vocals as laid down and pitch it correctly where it does not sound like it's being sped up. But they're, it seems like they're singing to that tempo of that beat. So technology, what I'm saying, technology has gone far enough in the music business where you could take a person that can hardly sing, and then you could tweak a little bit here. Shout out to the sound engineer. And then he's making magic waiting, a la peanut butter sandwiches. You know what I mean? And he's making people, friggin' stars here. But it seems like Kalani doesn't need that. Shout out to Kalani. I love Kalani. She did a fantastic job. And hopefully she says she's coming and she's going to do, what do you call it? The Rockettes. Oh my God, I can't believe. See what I'm saying? I'm in New York. I don't even know what I'm talking about. New York City Music Hall. There you go. Radio City Music Hall. See what I'm telling you? Sometimes these things slip out my head. It happens to people. Radio City Music Hall. I think she said she was going to perform at Radio City Music Hall. So shout out to Kalani. She's always doing her thing. So, all right, folks, I'm going to get out of here. I have talked your head off and your ears off enough. It's been 2 weeks and I just had to get my, feelings off my chest. So thank you for listening to me, guys. I will see you guys next week. Hopefully, cross my heart, hope to die. We will have another show to talk to you guys about. So I appreciate you listening, and I am out of here. Deuces.
Yo, check it.
You just listened to GCOM Radio, powered by Lyfeblood.com for the global community.
We worldwide, baby.
See you in the next go round. From right here to your town, we out.